astronauts, this is Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. If you're new here, hi, as I said, my name is Brandy. I like to use tarot and astrology insights to give you everyday practical predictions so you can empower yourself. Now, this week's reading is essentially, I wanted to go into a little bit deeper about, what your boss could be thinking about you. So the question is, what is one thing your boss wishes you'd change? Now, this might be in terms of personality, this might be style, this might be, maybe your professional approach. We're going to get into it, all right? And we're going to see what it is that they're thinking about. But before we do, I do want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, if you want a private reading by me, link can be found in the description bar below. I also go live on the weekends, as Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Time is posted on the community tab. And in those live sessions, we do weekly collectives. You can ask me questions. And sometimes I'll give astrological insights into all of your 12 signs. And if you don't know, I prefer Vedic astrology. But sometimes I'll give some Western insights just because it helps gather a diverse audience. It's good to meet people where they are sometimes. So that is what I wanted to say about that. And I don't want to waste any more time. I kind of want to just get into these cards, right? We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. So let's not waste any more time and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey, pal, number 1, let's get into what's one thing your boss wish you'd change. You have Strength card here. You have the Queen of Swords. We have Judgment. We have the 4 of Pentacles and the 9 of Cups. This is an interesting spread because to me, when I'm looking at all these cards seem so positive. So in a way, I feel as though maybe with the Strength card, what your boss wish you would change is the fact that maybe you take on a lot, right? Especially if we have the Strength card and we have the 4 of Pentacles. Sometimes those cards coming together in the same reading when it's talking about someone is someone not allowing other people to help or to even get to know them on a personal level. Or they set very strong boundaries when it comes to their personal lives and thoughts. The Queen of Swords is someone who's more focused on the actual work rather than making friends. And that's not to say that she is not sociable, because she ultimately is a sword element. And you can even see on the card we have like Uranus and Aquarius. And it's sociable, but at the same time, very distancing like energy. Like, you don't need to know all of these private details about me. And the Strength card acts in that same way. Like, I am only going to give you so much, and also I am someone who believes myself to be highly capable, and I may not always ask for help. That's just a thing. And I see that a lot with the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is so smart, so intelligent, but sometimes when it comes to these emotional aspects of our personality, when it comes to, opening up to the more vulnerable aspects of ourselves, the Queen of Swords is not with that, okay? Especially not in a work environment. So both of these cards with the Strength and all 3 of these cards between Strength, the 4 of Pentacles, and to some degree the Queen of Swords represent a sense of restraint and self-containment. And you may not normally see the Queen of Swords in that light, but you have to keep in mind she has a sword. And I think I've mentioned this a while ago, but on her throne there is a little cherub. And the cherubs were known for sort of like there's an association with Christianity where they guard knowledge in a way. And if we look at this from a more practical lens, it's like you may be guarding knowledge of yourself, protecting yourself in some way, so that certain people cannot use information against you in a way. And ultimately, I guess that's one thing your boss would want to change. They would like you to be less private and more someone who would release the reins. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily see you as somebody who can't do it. In fact, these cards do indicate a level of intelligence and responsibility. But at the same time, it's like, man, you keep it strictly business. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Okay? And then, you know, maybe they would like you to be a little bit more collaborative. There's elements to that. What I see here when we're talking about the Judgment card and talking about things that they wish you'd change, that's very interesting placement, because automatically when I see the Judgment card, it's a card that just embodies change within itself. So it's almost like they wish you transform into a new version of yourself. It's not completely like, let me leave my entire personality behind, but they would like you to show more of a transformation, more of a growth. Because right now you are showing up, you are being steady, you are someone they can rely on, you're someone they can count on, but they wouldn't mind to see you take things to the next level. These cards here would indicate they're looking for anything that could surprise them, right? The Judgment card is a renewal, a brand new day, a fresh start, a revolution, an evolution. And they're looking to see, in a way, something that can shift and change their perspective of you. More than likely, a different aspect of your personality or skill set. Sometimes I get Pluto, in which the Judgment card connects to Pluto. You can see it on the card here. I want to show you these cards. I'm pulling them all up so you guys can see them today. Hopefully it's focusing. I can't see too well, but I hope you got that. You can see Pluto on the card. And I normally get Pluto to represent someone who is highly skilled at someone, almost like mastery, because it connects to power. And it's like, okay, I have power over this thing. Like if I made marble slabs like this thing here, and I did it a billion and trillion times, I've made 1,000 of these. Now I am empowered to make these slabs. I have a control over it. I have a mastery over it. So the Judgment card can connect to that. So they may be looking for some sort of element to indicate a mastery within your field. Something that shows that you are maybe even more dedicated to it, to growing within it, to going above and beyond. Something along the lines of that. And I do feel as though they believe you can do it, but I don't know, something about the energy is they're viewing it as if you are holding back, okay? It's not really like a crazy critique, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like with this pile in particular, your boss does have a lot of respect for you. You know, I feel it's more so we want to see an evolved version of you, because you've already shown competence, you've already shown stability, you've already shown that, you know, we can rely on you. But I want you to take ownership of your work, ownership of your skill. I want you to show you're not just capable, but you are initiating change, transformation, and growth, and you're shaping things within themselves. You're coming up with new ideas. You are not just doing the work, but you are being exceptional at the work. You know, now you may feel like this is unfair critique, but I'm just giving you the cards, guys, all right? I'm just handing you the information, you know. Don't shoot me. You might be going well above and beyond, but this is their critique here. And I feel as though I don't know. I just feel as though that they just really want you to elevate beyond the baseline expectations. That's essentially it. Maybe even like learning a new skill, saying, hey, I want to go to this, XYZ convention, da da da, and I would love to bring this information back to the company or whatever. But there's something there to that, There's something there to it. We also have this 9 of Cups at the end. And I feel like that's similar to what I was saying earlier, where they feel that you might be a little bit more tightly wound. Hopefully that's not an offensive way to say that. But they want to feel as though you're trusting the team, that you are not just, I don't know how else to keep saying this. Like, they want to say, oh, let's go out for a happy hour after work, or let's go hang out with each other. Like, there's a sense of partying when it comes to the 9 of Cups. 9 of Cups wants to eat together. They want to share meals. They want you to come to the company parties. They want you to go to the after hours. They want you to go to the company picnic or hangout, whatever. Companies have all these different things. Some more than others, but they want it to feel a little bit sociable. They want it to be professional and personal. They want to enjoy this aspect of who you are. And some people are like that, right? You have people who go to work just to work, but then you have some people who go to work because they like the sociable aspects of it. They like to talk about things. They are looking to meet interesting people. It's less about the work and hitting goals and more about, oh, do I like you as a person? Like, that's the vibe I get here. Not to say that your boss doesn't care about the work. They absolutely do, especially this spread. But they want to see you as someone who's bringing in that personality. Like I said, they want the happy hours, they want the lunch, they want the office events, they want the casual check-ins, they want to celebrate together. That is this whole person's, like, they wish you'd change about that. It's about enjoyment and social currency. So in a way, they want you to get from this place of being a little bit more reserved or quieter to yourself, or even just doing the bare minimum socially. You might just be very polite and professional and keeping it like that. They're like, no, I want you to do a little bit more. I want more participation from you. I want more after hours. Because think about it, the 9 of Cups is not something that is connected to being within the boundaries of a 9 to 5. The 9 of Cups is usually like a banquet, celebrations. It's after hours stuff, right? So they want you to be a part of that. They want you to be a part of the after hours things. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here, pile number 1. I don't know how else to expand upon it. I really do feel as though there is a lot of respect for you, and maybe even just a lot of curiosity around who you are. Even if I look at these cards, this connects to Leo and this connects to Pluto. And you can look at this as like Pluto being in Leo or Pluto being in the 5th house. And so it's an expansion of personality, creativity, self-expression, more personal, casual, fun vibes. The 5th house or Leo's energy is all about connecting to entertainment and enjoying yourself and having fun. And they would like that aspect to be transformed, as well as bringing about more creativity. So that is kind of like the vibes here, even if you just look at things from that angle. But that's what I have, and I will see you guys next time, and hopefully this resonates. Don't forget, I go live on the weekend. If you want a private reading from me, all you have to do is go to the description bar below, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Not right now. No announcements right now. I'm always working on stuff, though. I cannot wait for you guys to see all the things I'm working on. From like a book to, looking up a better avenue for you guys for the readings. So there's going to be changes. There's always going to be changes. Got to innovate. Got to change. Got to transform. So I'll see you guys next time. Au revoir. Okay, pal. Number 2. What's one thing your boss wishes you change? We have the Eight of Pentacles reverse, the Five of Cups reverse, the Sun reversed, the Hermit reversed, and the Page of Pentacles reversed. A lot of reversals here. Okay, that's fine. So when we're going into the Eight of Pentacles reverse as one thing your boss wishes you change, the Eight of Pentacles reverse generally means that they kind of wish you were a little bit more detailed oriented. Quite often I get the Eight of Pentacles to represent like, hey, I get the job done, but it may not be up to maybe your boss's specific standards, or maybe they just wish there were certain tweaks or procedures or understandings as to how certain things were laid out. For me, when I see the Eight of Pentacles reverse, it's like good enough, right? And I feel as though when we have it in this position of something your boss would like, it's saying that they would like you to not get into this place of good enough and maybe even go into more of a perfectionist mindset. This Five of Cups, to me, when I look at it, I feel as though there's also this element of, how do I explain this? If they give you feedback on certain things and they feel as though, they'll feel as though you take it pretty personally, and it's less about like improving the work and more so about like, they'll feel you're really holding on emotionally to what they said. Because the Five of Cups reverse is focusing a lot on loss and what could have been changed, or how things didn't work out, or how they wish certain things were different. And, you know, the response is pretty disappointing, and they feel as though maybe you hold on to certain critiques, or maybe projects that weren't successful, or initiatives weren't successful, or assignments that didn't kind of unfold or get the feedback you wanted. So they would love for you to kind of just more so let things go, rather than being in this state where you're where you're kind of like, what's the word for it? You're kind of like, you're trying to like reverse it or redo it, if that makes sense. That's kind of like the core message. They can feel as though you wish really badly things could change. And yeah, you can get the Five of Cups reverse in a sense to represent, okay, we're moving on and this doesn't even affect me like that, and be very nonchalant. But I don't think that's the case, just given these cards. I think there is an element to you and your personality that definitely takes your work seriously. But for them, they may feel as though, because there's such a strong personal connection, it's hard for you to, like I say, disconnect from any sort of disappointments. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting here. And I think overall, what we see here is that they're trying to figure out a way to provide you feedback that doesn't, you know, tiptoe too much around your feelings, but then also can lead to more improvement. And it is possible that maybe because their delivery is not something that you vibe with, and this is just based on the cards. And the only reason I say that is because, I mean, well, one, every card's reversed in this deck, so it doesn't indicate generally smooth communication. But number two, generally the Eight of Pentacles reverse is kind of like a lack of support, a lack of guidance. Like they're not doing their job to supervise you or manage you or to train you or to better you in that sense. And so it's possible that they have these expectations for you, but they've never actually given you the tools to allow you to meet those expectations, or maybe they've never even, said those expectations out loud, because something about these cards tells me that I don't think your boss is the best communicator. I could be wrong, but I just kind of see that here. And to me, it feels as though you guys have definitely different ways of approaching work and situations, where when we have this Eight of Pentacles reverse, which is like, I don't focus too much on the little small details or the things that really aren't that important. I just want whatever goal to me to be accomplished is accomplished, right? Like, for example, let's say your goal is to put up a bunch of, I don't know, I'll say you're working in an department store. I'm just thinking of shopping right now. But and your goal is to attract a lot of people for Valentine's Day. So you put on a display of people wearing red, right? And your boss comes up and they're just like, oh, why is this person in a red dress? And then that person's in red pants. And you're just like, it's Valentine's Day. I just want people to know that we're celebrating Valentine's Day. And they're just like, well, you need a methodology behind it and to pick the right red. And maybe this person should be posed like this. And this is really going to bring out the light in these pants. And maybe you should think about a deeper red color. Like, they're going into sort of like intrinsic detail. And you're more so like, we just need people to come in because it's red and it's Valentine's Day and be on theme. Like, we don't need to go over this stuff like that. Especially with that Hermit card reverse. This is another card that is connected to sort of like detail orientation, because it's connected to Virgo. And so when it's reversed like this, it's like, okay, you are prioritizing efficiency and output rather than really thinking about refinement and craftsmanship in a sense. So your goal is to, like I said, get the work done in the simple, most effective manner, but they're thinking more so on like all of these little details that may or may not be important to get things done, right? This is how I see it. And so they kind of wish you were more like that, the more like that detail orientation, more so that the looking at the different shades of red, more so like having certain standards, more so being aligned with the little everyday quirks that can make a role different. And there's nothing wrong with having either or perspective, right? Because on one hand, being very detail oriented has its uses. But then on the other hand, big picture thinking also has its uses. And I feel like you're probably more oriented towards more big picture thinking. Okay, that is what I see here. You're all like mission accomplished and they're like, not quite yet, right? So another thing that we have here is what they kind of wish you would change is, it's interesting because the sun reversed is like, it's almost like they feel like you don't take pride in your work, or even they in their mind will feel like you're not showing a lot of happiness or brightness, or like you're not like, this is fun, this is exciting, I want to be here. Like the sun reverse is the opposite of a positive attitude. Well, it's not completely the opposite of a positive attitude, but it's not really like this sunny, joyful card that's very smiley and right? The sun card reversed is more so like, I don't really want to be here right now, but maybe I'll put on a smile just to keep people happy. And they kind of maybe wish that you were actually in this state of happiness and enthusiasm and feeling good about being here. But for them, they feel like when you show up to work, it's very obvious that you're like, I'm here to just kind of do what I need to do. Maybe even just like the bare minimum. I hope I'm not offending anyone. Okay. I really don't. I'm just trying to read the cards. If this doesn't resonate, you know, feel free to choose a new pal. But I just get from the cards, like your boss feels as though you're showing up in a way where it's like, I don't really love being here, but I need to get paid. I need to do the bill. I need to pay my bills, and I'm not exactly going to purposely mess things up, but I'm not exactly going to give this work my all. And I'm not really looking to grow within this role, especially the Page of Pentacles reverse. Like, that's kind of like, I don't really feel like this is a stepping stone in the direction I would like to go in terms of like maybe the career I want to go in, maybe in terms of what you guys have to offer me. They feel as though you're coming from this place of that this is not long term. This is something, a short stop on your vision, and that this job doesn't really have much to offer you. And they wish that you had you felt differently. I mean, essentially they want you to take pride in what you're doing. They want you to see how important the work is. They want you to be happy to be there. They want you to be excited about how things turn out. They want you to feel more engaged. They want you to come up with different solutions, to problem solve, to be enthusiastic and open to learning here, especially that Page of Pentacles. They want you to come in and say, I've got a new idea, boss. Let's do this thing. Let's do that thing. And you're not giving that. You're like, sometimes you might turn in work a little bit later. You may respond to people later. That can happen with this combination of cards, or you could just show up late. I only say late because like generally I can get Pentacles, especially when they're in reverse position, to be like, oh, I'm showing up a little bit late. Like there's a delay in the making here, going on here. And that's happening when I see these cards. And there's something about the energy that's like, okay, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to show up. I don't even want to be here. I'm here to cash my check and go with this energy. And they do kind of wish that you would come out of your shell a little bit more. I do feel like with this combination of cards, it's like you're a little bit more selective about who you talk to, and you kind of stick to what you know. Like the Page of Pentacles reverse is someone who's not going to venture too much outside of their circle or maybe even their team. And the Hermit card reversed is generally like, okay, I'm starting to open up, but like I said, it's like opening up within the boundaries of your team. They may want you to explore more so conversations with maybe other departments, other people, etc. They're not looking for you to be their bestie or anything like that, but they would enjoy for you, they would like for you to make connections maybe with other coworkers who you don't typically see anymore, because they feel like it could be beneficial to learn more about the business, to learn more about the work, to learn more about the environment. That's kind of like what I see here, you know. I really do. It's from them. They feel like you're giving the vibe of being physically present, but maybe a little bit disengaged and checked out. Like you're going to turn in the work, but it may be a little bit late and it's going to be the bare minimum. And, you know, it's not going to, you're not coming with the ideas. It's very much like, this job is not for me. This job doesn't pique my curiosity. This job doesn't excite me. I don't want to add anything. I don't want to transform anything. You guys don't really do much for me like that. and they wish you felt differently, essentially. Like, but that's what I have for you guys. If this doesn't resonate, you know, feel free to choose a new pal or a new reader. But either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. I think, you know, looking at these cards, especially since we have the sun, and we can look at this as like the sun being in Virgo or being in the 6th house, then this becomes about maybe even wanting to do your own thing. And maybe they can see that you have a sense of independence about you that is not being, I don't know, stimulated by the current environment that you're in. And they wish that was different. But if you want a private reading from me, don't forget to go to the description bar below, fill out the form. I'm currently in transition and trying to get a new avenue for the readings up. And also, I go live on the weekends, and that is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Time's posted on the community tab. Also in the community tab, I poll you astronauts on, about yourselves, your interests, even about readings on this channel. I'm like, hey, what do you want to see next? So, and I ask your opinion. So that's all I want to say for now. And au revoir. Hey pal, number 3, let's get into what's one thing your boss wishes you change. We have the World, we have the Magician card, we have the Lovers reversed, we have the 10 of Wands reversed, and we have the 7 of Wands. All right. Very interesting choice of cards when we get the World card here, because right away when I think about one thing your boss wishes that you change, it's almost like maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but to me it seems as if they wish you weren't so great at your job. I mean, with the World card here, that indicates somebody's very successful. The Magician card is someone who's very capable, smart, adaptable. And the World card does show a strong sense of appreciation. And maybe what your boss is getting at is that you take pride in your work, but at the same time, because you take a lot of pride in what you do and you put a lot of effort into what you do and you deliver consistently, maybe it feels as though for them, there's not really much input they can give to you. They don't have a lot to offer you, or they could be coming from a place where they may feel as though they don't get the opportunity to shine, or in a way, it's sometimes people enjoy being in the manager position because they've worked their way up to a certain position and they want to share their knowledge and expertise. And if they get people who are under them who are not only equally as knowledgeable, or they have their own set of skill sets that is up to par with theirs, then it kind of like deflates that momentum. And they don't get that opportunity to guide or shape you in any way. So something about you reads as if like you don't really need much direction. You don't really need to change too much. Nobody's perfect, but you have shown that you're very capable. You're independent. You can think on your feet. You figure things out on your own. And maybe to some degree, this person may feel threatened by that. It's quite possible. Maybe it's coming across as being intimidating. But overall, it's that's what it is, And then sometimes, even if you aren't perfect, maybe in this person's mind, they feel like you're upholding this image of being very polished, and maybe they, in their mind, would prefer that you showed more flaws. Sometimes people are like that, especially if they're intimidated or they feel as though someone is really great. They will act in a way that they're like, oh, I wish this person would tell me more about their bad days, or they try to get them to open up about how messy their life is, or, something along the lines of that, so they can feel better about their own. And it's really just highlights their own sense of insecurities. But that's what I get from like the World card and the Magician here, and what I'm picking up on. And then we have the Lovers reversed. Now, the Lovers reversed, from what I've seen in these cards, it would mean that they would prefer to have more harmonious conversations. I don't particularly get the Lovers to represent deep conversations, more so being very amicable conversations. and having a friendly and kind delivery or considerate delivery of other people's thoughts and beliefs. So reversed, it's kind of like, I have my own way of doing things. I have my own way of approaching things. And I don't feel all the time that I need to acknowledge that your way of doing things can be good. You know, for me, it's as if you are very strategic, you're very logical. And sometimes when we have the Magician card here, it's kind of like saying you might hear someone, like, and I mean hear someone, not listen to them. You might hear someone out about how they prefer to approach a task or assignment, etc., or hear your boss out, but then you're just kind of like, actually, there's a better way to do things, and we should go about this route because of X, Y, and Z, da, da, da. And you'll fight hard for it, especially that Seven of Wands. And in a way, they may feel as though, how do I say this? They may feel as though, like, you're not giving their way of doing things, like, a chance. You know, that's kind of like the feeling that they wish they would change. And they would love to be more aligned as a team. You know, it's like, I think you do a great job working independently by yourself, doing your own thing, but I would love to be able to work as a team. I would love to be able to have more balance, especially with this this 10 of Wands right here, showing they would want you to offload things. And I know there's another pile that's similar to that, so you may feel drawn to that. I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, honestly, they may feel as though you're less open to other ways that people prefer to do things or their approaches, or they may just feel like you're someone who just prefers to work by themselves or have that sense of independence, and you aren't really particularly fond of having these types of team environments. You might be better off as a leader or working independently, and maybe they wish that there was more harmony when it comes to teamwork and coming together. At least that's what I'm getting from this scenario here. And I really do think that you are someone who for the most part, you do, I'll say you engage with other people. But when I look at this Lover's card reverse and the 10 of Wands reversed, it can sort of read as engaging with others in a way that is not necessarily dismissive, but more so like, could you wrap this up? Like, I have things to do. Like, it's almost like your boss kind of wishes like you would take the time to just like really sit in the moment and hear people out. You know, it's sort of something along the lines of that. And even if the conversation's not work focused and someone's just rambling on about their weekend, they would love if you would, I don't know, at least sort of like entertained it, you know, entertain people's conversations. And maybe you do, but it just shows up on your face like you're like tired and you're over it. Just because we don't have a lot of pentacles here, we don't have a lot of cards with patience. I guess the World card can connect to like discipline and patience in a way, but it's not focusing more so on the social aspect. It's more so like you're taking your time to master your craft, to be successful at your job, to, you know, do what you need to do to succeed. You're more like a star. Like, rather than a team player, you're someone who stands out and makes sure people know who you are and what you've accomplished and what you've done. That's kind of like your vibe here. And I do feel as though, you know, how you acknowledge people, your boss would switch around a little bit. That's the main thing I'm getting when it comes to that. Especially with that 7 of Wands there, that can be someone's very stubborn. And sometimes they can draw boundaries around people who have different perspectives or point of views, or even in a personal way. It doesn't even have to be related to the assignments or the work that you do. It could just be, you may have different belief systems, and sometimes, different topics get brought up at work, right? Like you might get some political topics brought up, you might get whatever relationship topics, all sorts of things. And you're very strong about your perspectives. And I guess sometimes your boss would feel like, I wish that it was less tense in that way. Like where it was more, I'm trying to think of the word for it. Maybe, I guess I'll say more compromising. That's the kind of vibe they were looking for. More tolerant in a way. And it's like I said, it's not to say that you are just this hard-headed person who is not adaptable and etc. Because you do have plenty of ways of parts of your personality that are willing to adapt or willing to change. But it has to make sense. You're like, make it make sense, right? You're not going to entertain something that is, to you, utter nonsense, okay? Like, that's kind of like the perspective. And I guess maybe your boss would prefer you to, I guess, cater more to people's feelings. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting here. And maybe even practice a little bit more humility. Because the 7 of Wands definitely is not a card of being humble. It's like, I earned this, I got this, I did this, this is mine, this is what I accomplished, da 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 da, right? What have you done lately? Like, like it can be like that sometimes, I just want, I just see that with the 7 of Wands here. And the 10 of Wands reverse, obviously, like I said, it's pretty much that star player like quality of taking everything on by yourself. They wish you would do that less. And you would allow other people to step up and fill in the gaps, even though you're really great at your job. I definitely see that 100%. I feel as though, because we have Saturn and the World card here. Sorry, Saturn is connected to the World card. And then we have Mercury. And then we have, this is technically Venus and Gemini. But I can read this from different perspectives. Like, let's say this is like Saturn in the 3rd house. What this is going to do is kind of make you a little bit of you put a lot of effort into what you do. And because you put a lot of effort in what you may have high expectations for those around you. And Saturn in the 3rd house can feel as though like you're applying pressure to those you work with. Like, I need you to live up to this standard. I need you to get like me in a sense. And so your boss in a way would prefer you change that and be a little bit more relaxed when it comes to your coworkers and not have such high expectations for them in a way. And then also when we have Saturn and Mercury coming together, honestly, that can definitely represent some communication that is very direct and not necessarily the softest way to deliver something. And so maybe they're looking for you to, like I said, deliver things softly, to come across as being more compromising and agreeable. They would love that. And generally, when I see this combination of cards, it is very overwhelming. It can be something along the lines of information overload, brain, overly stimulated, things along the lines of that. And so another thing they would love you to change is they would like you to take a break. They would like you to pause. You don't have to be be in ultimate star player mode all the time, high achiever, wanting to get things done, knocking things off the checklist. They're like, it's okay to take a break and soften your defenses, and you don't have to prove your capability, and it's okay to just lighten the load and take some weight off your shoulders, something along the lines of that. That is what I see here when it comes to the combination of what they wish you would change. But I mean, at least I know they think you're capable. You know, of all the piles here, your boss thinks probably the highest of you. You know, they have a lot of respect for what you do. I don't know if they admit that, but that is something that I see here. But I will see you next time, pile number 3. Don't forget, if you want a private reading from me, don't forget to go to that description bar below and just fill out the form. I'll get back to you. You can also join the live and ask me questions there. And during the lives, you know, I will do the weekly look ahead to see what's happening next week in the cards for us collectively. And I also do talk about astrological insights in terms of what's going on in the sky right now. I'm a transit queen and I love Vedic astrology, and obviously this is Astro-Tarot research, so I'm going to combine the astrology here. And it's actually interesting with this pile in particular, with the world and Mercury. I just remember seeing this combination coming together to represent having like this very, very heavy workload I generally see with people, and having a high demand when it comes to the mental activities that you need to balance within your life, and also having a lot of responsibilities within your routine. So this is like, I want you to unload responsibilities. Like, you don't even have to look at these cards. And so this is what I talk about during my lives, or even just in general in all of my videos. I talk about how the astrology connects to the cards, to the tarot, and that's why I only pull such a small amount of cards, because they often start to repeat. But that is where I'm going off on a tangent here. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And hopefully I see you next time. Au revoir. All right, pile number 4. Let's get into the one thing, or at least one thing, your boss wishes you change. We have the 6 of Pentacles. Then we have the 3 of Swords reverse, the 9 of Wands, the Knight of Wands, and the 2 of Cups reverse. This is actually really interesting here, because when I look at these cards being laid out, the 6 of Pentacles and the 3 of Swords reverse, is almost like you guys have different approaches. And the reason I say that is because it's not necessarily like you won't work together, but it's like you don't work together. You know what I mean? Like, maybe your boss has a particular way they like to do something, and you're just not on board with that way, because we have this 3 of Swords, which is sort of trying to like heal the relationship, but at the same time, it's kind of like, sometimes it's a little bit of patchwork. Sometimes it's like Band-Aid to a bullet wound. Like, let's remain professional here. That's the kind of vibe that can happen here. And especially when we have this 9 of Wands, that can put someone in a very defensive position, very combative, refusing to, you know, even look at things from a different perspective. And I think maybe your boss is viewing you from this lens of someone being stubborn or fighting over every little, well, not every little thing, because like that would be a different card, but fighting over certain things, really holding your ground on it and sinking in. And so they kind of wish that you were less like that, you know. In a way, they would prefer, just in general, for you guys to get along more. And I really can feel, at least I really feel here, especially with this Saturn and Libra energy, which you can see this on the Three of Swords card. At least I hope you can see it. I'll pull it up for you guys. You'll see the Saturn and Libra on the card. Hopefully this is focusing. It'll get on my nerves if it's not. I've been having some issues with this camera lately. But as I was saying, Saturn and Libra on this card here is essentially saying that it's very much a lot of work when it comes to you guys' communication. You know, it feels as though maybe they're refusing to shift perspective, or you're refusing to shift perspective. But the ultimate change that your boss would want, he or she would prefer you guys to get along more, because we have this Six of Pentacles here, right? This is the card of working together. This is the card of compromising. This is the card of like, hey, you know, these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths, and these are your weaknesses, and these are your strengths, and let's play to each other's weaknesses and strengths. You know, that is the type of environment your boss would like. And not only that, but when we have this Three of Swords reverse, in a way it's like healing heartbreak. So there may have been some certain moments that were just like, this person is a pain in my rear end, and I'm a little salty about X, Y, and Z. So I think that I think I would prefer like us to actually have a discussion about it, because when we have the Three of Swords reverse, it can either be one of two things. One, it can represent like, hey, like, let's have a conversation about certain moments that may have gone left, or may have just been a communication breakdown, or something that caused X who, you know, one of us some pain or something like that. Because when we have this Three of Swords upright, it's alienation. And so when it's reversed, it's like, okay, how can we fix this sort of disorder, sorrow, alienation, being upset? I mean, on the card here, it says pain, which is pretty accurate with the Three of Swords. Sometimes the Three of Swords is a little bit different than that. But whatever the case may be, the Three of Swords is connected to an emotion that is generally not the most pleasant. Like, you don't look at the Three of Swords and think happy, you know what I mean? Like, that's not the normal vibes, right? So that is what I see here in terms of, you know, what your boss wishes you change. It's more so the dynamics of the relationship. And then sometimes when we get this Knight of Wands energy, this Knight of Wands energy is very take charge, full steam ahead, innovation, change, let's go, 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 go. Like, you want to get things done fast, quick, and in a hurry, and now. And so your boss is kind of seeing you from this lens, like, wanting to move a little bit faster. And to me, it seems like that may not be the most compatible way in terms of how they like to do things, especially with this Six of Pentacles there. Six of Pentacles likes to take their time, likes a little bit more organization. And even if it's not, even if they're not the most organized person, they definitely like to take their time. The Six of Pentacles doesn't move fast, period. So they feel as though they want you to slow down a little bit, because that's just, I mean, the cards aren't really giving me a hard line reason, but essentially it kind of unnerves them emotionally. That I can say for sure. And a lot of change is just, I don't know, it just feels like, it feels stressful. It feels foreign. It feels like, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. This is not something I recognize. They feel like you're very eager to push things forward, and they don't think that it's either a match for themselves, or maybe the organization, or maybe even just your department, or even, you know, your store. I don't know where you work, but like, we all have different places that we work. but they just may not feel like it's a match for one of those things. Usually I get the Two of Cups though to represent more so like people or groups. So I would imagine it might be like, oh, more so our team or them or department or something like that, rather than the entirety of the organization. But there is that. There's a sense of urgency about you. And also, when I get the Nine of Wands, and on this card, you can see it says Sun in Sagittarius. So wand energy very much connects to Leo, Sagittarius, Aries. On this card, they have Sun in Sagittarius, which is why I got the cards, because they add a different layer. This is Astro-Tarot research, guys. And so when you look at somebody who's Moon in Sagittarius, that's someone who has a lot of foresight and a lot of vision. And you do think far ahead. And that's not necessarily something that they dislike about you. If anything, they probably like it. But the thing is, they feel like you want to get there now. Like you want to get there fast. Like you want to approach things in a way that is speeding up the tempo. Like that's their main thing that they wish you would change. Like they're like, this is just so fast. This is so much at once. Like this is a lot of change being driven. And not only that, but I was going there with this perspective. When you have the Moon in Sagittarius and you have someone who thinks on a broad picture and things on lines of that, it's as if you are someone who is, how do I explain this? You may have some knowledge that maybe others don't quite have, and they feel as though you might be not fully articulating how you may reach certain conclusions. And so it may come across as like, oh, this person is thinking of a brash solution, or they're not fully thinking things through, right? Because we have that Knight of Wands energy, who he's not dumb at all. In fact, he's very strategic. And we have this Nine of Wands here, which that's a card of strategy and resilience. So I really do feel as though they recognize there's a sense of strategy, but they may feel as though the execution's not there, or maybe the communication is lacking. And then sometimes when I get the Moon in Sagittarius, it does connect to someone being highly educated, but maybe they're like, oh, this person lacks experience, so I wish that they would allow me to guide them in the way that is going to provide the experience I believe that they need. Something like that. And when we see this Two of Wands reverse, this Two of Wands reverse to me shows that you guys will struggle to see eye to eye. Like there's just a vibe here. They wish that you guys could, in a way, vibe more. I think that their intention is not necessarily like, oh, I want this person gone, because the Three of Swords reverse would indicate the opposite. If anything, they would prefer you guys to work as a team. But I think aspects of interacting with you, I'm going to be straightforward and say they find exhausting. You know, Two of Cups reverse is like, I just don't get this person. Like, I just don't understand them. I don't get the actions they take. And also there's this feeling of wanting to have a more friendly relationship. I say that because the Knight of Wands next to the Two of Cups, it's less about the work and more so about like vibing on a personal level, or on a level that has to do with ethics or morals or politics or even entertainment or just like your personal life and things like that. I see that here. You know, we have this Six of Pentacles of wanting to work together, but the main element here is the fire element. And the fire elements connect to like who you are as a person. They connect to, you know, what you like to do for fun. They connect to like your education, and they connect to, you know, your personal beliefs. And so they rather, on a way, want to get to know you from that perspective. You know, if it were like about the work, we'd see a lot more pentacles here. And so that's the thing. It's less about the work and more about maybe your own sort of personal approach or who you are as a person. Especially when we have the Two of Cups here reversed. Sometimes that can represent, hey, this person's not the most sociable, or they may not be the most agreeable. And then you can be very blunt. So these are the things that they wish you would change. And honestly, it's just a lot of energy going on here. It's a lot. I just feel as though, I feel with this particular pal, like the approach is so different, and it's just hard to understand each other on certain levels. I'm not saying on every single level, but on certain levels it is. So that is what I have for you, and I will see you next time, pal number 4, and au revoir. Hey, pal number 5, let's get into one thing your boss wishes you'd change. We have the Knight of Swords reverse. We have the the 10 of Swords reverse. We have the Queen of Pentacles. I'll keep that upright. Then we have the 2 of Swords reverse and the Chariot. Now, I said I'll keep that upright because normally I read it in a different way, but this time I'm reading like reversals for this reading, just trying something new. It's not my normal style, but nothing wrong with a little change. Now, we have the Knight of Swords for one thing your boss wishes you change. Well, the Knight of Swords can be somebody who's very impulsive, upright and reversed. But usually when the Knight of Swords is upright, there's just a lot of quick decisions needing to be happened. It's not necessarily that they're all bad decisions in a way, but the Knight of Swords, when he's reversed, a lot of the decisions that are being made can come across as a bit impulsive or not well thought out. And so maybe your boss feels as though they wish you would take your time thinking things through a little bit more before you made those decisions. Okay, I just want to say that. They feel like some of your choices may have been miscalculated. Maybe you've moved too quickly through assignments, projects. Sometimes this can represent like taking shortcuts in a way, like they might be viewing you in that perspective. Now, this doesn't mean that this is actually happening, but this is their perspective of things, right? So they feel as though you might be making some hasty decisions, and they would like you to take some time to really anchor in those decisions. I mean, that's what they kind of view here. 10 of Swords reversed. Now, that one is more so, maybe they feel as though you're a little bit hard or critical on yourself. And, you know, that can happen to the best of us. Especially with this 2 of Swords reversed. It's interesting because I do the weekly collective, and you guys should join the lives to, you know, get a look at the weekly collective. And this week we pulled the 2 of Swords reverse. So the 2 of Swords reverse and how it shows up can have to do with, quite often, either you are being kind of like forced to come off the fence and make a decision, or sometimes with the 2 of Swords reverse, decisions are made for you. And let me bring this back here, because you may be too harsh or critical on yourself, which is interesting because, like I said, they feel like some of your decisions are a little bit impulsive. And then at the same time, they're like, okay, this person is really critical and harsh on themselves. And maybe they are overcomplicating things when they make a mistake. And then it goes into this area of like being at an impasse and even just waiting for other people to make decisions for you rather than to take the reins. So there's something about the way that you approach your work and your way of solving things that they wish was, one, a little bit more nuanced or thoughtful or well researched. Two, you know, it's okay to make mistakes and they want you to recognize it, but they don't want you to overanalyze those errors. They want you to, you know, sort of like reset and move forward. Okay, that's kind of like the vibe here. And they may even feel as though, to some degree, this worry about making decisions or choices or even some sort of self-criticism or taking, what's the word? Some sort of self-criticism and fear involving, you know, making these decisions and second-guessing yourself can force people around you sort of have to take the reins and say, okay, do this instead. You know, they would rather you kind of step up and be a leader in that sense. And in contrast, this could be opposite for some of you, where instead of it being that you're making these quick impulsive decisions, maybe you're taking too much time to analyze things and you get stuck in analysis paralysis. That's also a possibility, because the Knight of Swords, he can swing both ways, okay? He can be someone who's like making those impulse decisions, but then he can also be someone who hesitates. But they really do feel as though, like, once you make a choice and maybe it didn't end the way you would like it to, or there was some miscommunication and the execution wasn't that great, they may feel like you really do beat yourself up over it, and they want you to get to this space where you can feel confident in your choices and you don't have to essentially, you don't have to lean so much on other people having to help you navigate those decisions. At least this is how they view things. Maybe you come to them with a lot of questions and they just want you to have more autonomy, because ultimately we have this Chariot card here. And for me, when I see this, this is like, hey, I wish you would take the reins. I wish you would take the time to make the decisions and move forward. I wish that you would, you know, just go out there and get the job done and strike a good balance, you know. And it's not as if they want you to be in work mode all the time, because oftentimes I get the Chariot to represent someone who works hard, plays hard. And so they do kind of encourage you to have more of that social side to you. But ultimately, they want you to be the director and CEO of your own life, essentially. That is what they're looking for. They want you to take ownership of the work. They want you to take ownership of your task. And then they want you to make sure your work is polished. I often get the Queen of Swords to represent having a more polished image as well, same as the Chariot. So I'm not saying that your image is bad, but sometimes when I see this combination of cards, it can represent having a more professional or refined look. And trust me, I did not focus on appearance for the rest of the cards here, but something about this pile in particular, there is an element of wanting you to look more refined, looked more in line with the environment that you are in, because they feel like that will position you to have a lot more gains and success within the business in the future. Okay, they want you to show that you can do your work and you can move forward with confidence, and that you're someone who makes space for connection. They want you to own your decisions. They want you to be someone who is nurturing to yourself. And they also want you to be someone who is goal-oriented, gets the job done, someone that they can rely on, someone that is not a perfectionist, but they do a great job, okay? this is what I'm saying here. Like, you pour into your goal, you enjoy your life, you have a good balance of work and play. These are the things that they want. They want less anxiety prone energy, and more so like, I'm bringing innovations into my environment. I'm switching up the pace. I'm bringing joy and fulfillment into the workplace, or I am bringing the company forward in some way. I don't know, it depends on your job though, like, or you're just doing the best for your department and making changes and transformations in those areas, and defining your own path and committing to it. I mean, that's essentially it with these cards here. This is the overall end all be all with this comment, with this spread. And also with the Chariot here, you know, sometimes I just get this card to represent, like, I wish you'd get out more. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe you're more of an introvert. Maybe you're more of a person who is softer spoken, or you kind of just like work and go home or whatever. But the Chariot's someone who's well-traveled. The Chariot is someone who goes places, does things, has adventures. They're knocking things off that bucket list. And maybe they just kind of want you to have more adventures and, you know, really enjoy your time away from work. I do like that they want that balance for you in that sense. But they also feel as though there's just room to stand strong within your choices. Don't look for validation as much, and be focused a lot more on your work and refining it. And that's kind of essentially what I'm seeing. I mean, I don't know what else I could add to this. When I'm looking at the cards, I feel like that this is the overall overarching message. Wow, that was really hard to say for me. You know what I mean? Realign yourself with your willpower. Think about striking that balance. Don't allow yourself to be pulled in two opposite directions. Make choices, because the Two of Swords upright is somebody who's like, oh, I can see this side, I can see that side. The Chariot also has a little bit of that dynamic, but they make the choice and go down a certain path, and they stick to it. And they want that from you. They want less indecisiveness. They want more so like, this is what we're going to do, X, Y, and Z, and this is why. And they want to see you grow. I mean, this is a pile where I can, from your boss's perspective, they actually do want to see you grow as an individual. Personally, not every pile has had this, guys. Trust me, some of the piles, it's been a very mixed message. But this pile in particular, they want to see you grow. But that's all I have for you, pile number 5. Hopefully this resonates with you guys. And, you know, if not, feel free to choose a new pile. Maybe I'm about to read it for you. But either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. Don't forget, if you want a private reading from me, just fill out the form and I'll get back to you. It's in the description bar. And you can also ask me questions on the live. I go live on the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Times posted on the community tab. Also on the community tab, I poll you astronauts on what you want to see next. Anything that's going on in this channel, decisions I make, and I just like to ask random questions, you know. I ask things like, you know, where are you in your tarot reading stage, or like, what's your favorite food, or what do you think of this card, and what does it mean for you? Like, you know, I like to engage. And so stop by. And also on the lives, I go over the weekly collectives, as I just mentioned in this reading, and we talk about the vibes for the week ahead. And, you know, sometimes I'll definitely always recap it, because I always want to know what you guys have experienced. But all right, I'm in it there, and I will see you next time, and au revoir.